Begin with a creaking chair. Good evening. So I'm in the echoes of having just finished writing an essay. It's a really pleasing kind of experience for me. Um, it has a lot of the same qualities as finishing writing a book. Or sorry, finishing reading is what I meant to say. Finishing reading a book, where having a fictional book, that having been engrossed in a world, a really good story, and then the story is done. Sort of this grief that happens from the fact that, yeah, the story's done. But it's still a sense of completion. And it feels really nice. So that essay, I was exploring, trying to cut away the bits that don't matter for the specific social context. It's highlighting something about what it means to tune into truth that matters. There's a very specific sensation I've come to track. So there's a quality to, I think I've mentioned this in past videos. Maybe I'm just going to drop saying when I've said things in past videos, and I'll just say them when I want to. Sometimes I'll go for a walk. This has been a while since I've done so. It's getting into the rainy season, and I don't have good waterproof boots. But sometimes I go for a walk. And right now I live with my parents. I love them dearly. We get along very well. When we part, this is just for like an hour or so, there is for me a kind of sweetness I've learned to cultivate. Like I make a point of hugging each of them before I go because there's this clarity that is related to, it's not primarily about, but it is closely related to, recognition. While I'm gone, one of them could die. Both of them could die. What do I want my last moment with them to be like? So, going over to my father and giving him a hug and letting him know, I love you, Dad. I'm going for a walk. I'm going to my mother, doing the same thing. I love you, Mom. See you later, going on a walk. I don't expect that they're going to die. And I don't make a point anymore of rehearsing this because the point of the thought is not about death. Death just brings something into sharp relief. It points out, what am I ignoring? What am I not paying attention to? Where am I numb? So it brings things a little bit more alive and has me remember, how much do I really want to play the game of distance? Or just take them for granted? These are not ideas. Like I'm using ideas to guide attention to a specific place. Now, this quality of guiding has the same essence as if I invite something like, what does it feel like to feel your shirt moving as you breathe? Answering that question inside requires going down, it requires looking, it requires being present to the sensation. It's not about going up into analyzing, well, when a chest expands, it should create these kinds of vibrations on the shirt wrapping around it. It's disconnecting from the lived experience. So going down into the experience. And just being able to distinguish between up and down in this sense, immensely powerful. It's immensely beautiful and incredibly key. Everything that I can see. So there's for me this quality when I'm thinking this with my parents. It has nothing to do with the thoughts. The purpose of the thoughts is to highlight something. It's to highlight a lived experience, an aliveness. And that aliveness is there. There's this sense of, oh, I really care about these people. I treasure this moment. Part of what I'm attending to is, let's see, so I've got about 20 minutes before the three of us are planning on jumping on a group call. It's okay if I'm a little bit late. And I'm conscious of the fact that I often run it well over half an hour. And just attending to that, going, oh, this is the choice I'm making. This is the timing that I chose. I'm not worried about them dying in the next room or over the next hour or anything like that. This is not a concern. They're both extremely healthy. Has nothing to do with worry. This has purely to do with attuning to what matters, to remembering what I know to be true and important. So sometimes, particularly with Dad, get into these kinds of discussions where he'll bring in something from politics, or he'll bring in some theory or bit of philosophy. If we start talking about life after death or anything having to do with near-death experiences, there's a very particular theme that'll come out. And I guess the term is triggered. Dad gets triggered in a very particular way. And and it's understandable, there's some past, blah, 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 whatever. Details don't matter that much. The thing is that for me, there's this quality of when I get into it with him, I become more focused on the ideas. And I play into the fact that he is focused on ideas. So we end up having ideas talking to each other while both of us are sort of checked out from the experience. Now you can hear from my tone, particularly since yesterday, I've been really enjoying catching, oh, that wasn't perfectly clean. What wasn't clean? Grabbing it and then walking through, that's what's not clean about it. And the reason I want that to be different is this because of this effect here. I talked about this yesterday, zooming exactly in on what precisely in this instance is the issue. It feels really good. I'm watching these things dissolve. It's wonderful. This is such a gift. So, so in that kind of tangle with Dad, I'm not really with him. It's not what I want. If I imagine having a kind of argument with him there, and as arguments go, particularly in families, these are very gentle. We get into like, but these people are stupid. Oh no, but what about this perspective? Well, but I think this, but Dad, you're not listening to me. But here's my theory. Okay, well, here's my theory. Blah, blah. Okay. It's like, great, we've been throwing theories at each other. Where is the feeling of, I love you? Where's that openness? It's hidden. That doesn't have to be an active sentiment, just sitting there staring at each other saying, I love you too, I really love you. That gets annoying. That's not living. There's a knowledge that there is something off. This is not a knowledge of the mind. This is the same knowing that recognizes that in the moment of the argument, I can look him in the eye, and if the thought comes, this might be the last conversation I ever have with you. there would be a clarity that would appear. And in each moment, I can choose. Do I want to seek that clarity? Do I want to listen to that clarity? Or do I want to practice being a little deaf to it and leaning into the noise? If I lean into the silence, if I lean into the clarity, I find I get better at it. I grow deeper roots into the darkness, so to speak, like roots digging into the soil, getting nutrients. That doesn't mean being all Zen-like necessarily. I have a lot of passion and lust and power in how I work. And it moves from and in stillness, ideally. The more I develop this, the more clearly I can feel this, the more clearly I embody it, and the more wonderful life is. And the more clearly I can see what to do and how to shift. So apparently I have some sort of guck in my eye, so this is going to be mildly annoying. So when finally something to check, what did I actually write? Truths I'm trying to avoid noticing. That was the prompt I'd given. So part of what I'm tracking here is this way in which the act of choosing to listen, like at any given moment, like choosing to listen to that knowing in myself, it has a very specific quality to it. Both the knowing and the choosing to listen to the knowing, both of those, a very distinct quality to it. Even if I don't know what that quality is, choosing to pay attention, I know it. I know this quality, the same way I know I can feel my tongue in my mouth. It's not a fact. It's not of the mind. It's a clarity. Now, I refer to this as dark truth because this keeps touching on these questions of death and looking where I don't want to look. But if there are places where I find it really uneasy to look, I find it really uncomfortable, I already know there's something there that I'm avoiding. So being fairly abstract here is the examples that are zooming to mind when I want to go into them are more personal than I want to bring in without the other person's say so. So I don't particularly want to go into them. And I think an okay example, this is not the most pristine, this is in terms of clarity, this is the clearest example, but I think this is one I can bring in with integrity, and I think it'll do an okay job. When I watched the spirit of my company wither, there was a point where I knew it was time for me to leave, but I didn't because I had reasons that made sense. What that meant is if there's a disagreement between the sense of this place is not aligned with me anymore, which happened about 2 years before I actually left. I managed to scrape things together and do some projects within it, but I left at the end of 2018, and my heart gave up on it at the end of 2016. I had built the company, co-built, but the thing wouldn't be living and breathing if it hadn't been for my pouring my blood and soul into it for a couple of years. And as far as I was concerned, it wasn't mine anymore. So I knew that, and I didn't quite listen all the way. Because either I could have looked at the pragmatics that I was staring at, going, well, like it's an income source, I have a lot of freedom, I don't know what else I'm going to do, I need some time to rest and recuperate from the kind of emotional toil I've been going through, yada yada. So, and like those are some logical reasons to stick around. But like there could have been something about dialoguing with that and fleshing out a little bit more. Well, does it actually make sense for me to stay? As opposed to, does the logic say it makes sense? But instead I had this contrast where it wasn't a fit for me anymore. I didn't agree with it. I didn't agree with the spirit of a bunch of the power plays that were going on. It was very wrong. I knew it, and I didn't want to look. So this whole business of don't want to look. Don't want to look. There's something wrong here. Complaining is a loud sign for me, at least. It's a huge sign that there's something that I'm not paying attention to, that I'm ignoring, that I'm avoiding. There's a very specific quality to choosing to look at what I am avoiding looking at. It's not about forcing myself. That's an egoic thing. I'm going to bring my intention in. It has nothing to do with that. That kind of energy has no power. This is a dark choice. I say dark like leaning into the darkness. This is the choice of taking a breath, and being really here. And listening. Just listening. Listening to the silence. Feeling the stillness. To that knowing. The same place where I can know, oh, I really care about my parents. And I want, if this is the last moment I will get to see them, that I get to be with them, I want them to know that I love them. And I want to know that the last moment that we had together was them feeling that and me feeling with them. This is not about object level claims about what to do, what anybody should do. This is about pointing at, there is a clear thing right there. What does it mean to look at something and bring clarity? It's not a mental algorithm. It's not noise. It's made of silence. I'm going to honor my desire to make this short relative to my other videos. Thank you for listening.